All right. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining from. So, thank you for joining for Azure Demystifying session today. So, today we're gonna actually learn how you can, unlock revenue potentials with, using Azure and by selling Azure, right? And then selling Azure solutions. And then we're gonna get a kind of a overview of how you can get started with Azure, and then where you can learn, right? And then it's just an overview how beneficial is Azure as a service for you, as a new revenue potential for your MSP business. So with that, let me get into the agenda for the day. So this is the agenda. We're gonna actually see how we can unlock any new revenue potentials, and then we're going to see how you can reduce the cost and then increase margins and then diversifying your solution offerings that you might have right now. And also we're going to do kind of a little bit of a exercise on Microsoft Azure pricing calculator for you to get started with your first pricing quotation or the estimate for your customers. And then we're going to see how you can leverage, like Paxate professional services if you have new opportunities that you are willing to, execute. And then also we're gonna see how we can leverage some of the Azure programs that are available for you to leverage from Microsoft, right? That are available. And also I'm gonna give you kind of an overview how you can create your first Azure subscription via Paxate platform. It's a pretty simple one. And then also I'm gonna discuss a little bit of quick wins that you can get started with Azure in terms of change of channel. And also, at the end, I'm going to share you where you can learn more about Azure, especially Microsoft Learn website, and then Unpack It Academy. All right. So before we get started, everything just to introduce myself, my name is Dilip Rajapaksha. So I'm a solution engineer at Paxate. I'm working from Singapore, located in Singapore. I'm actually a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft Azure. So I've been MVP for 7 times, and then also Microsoft Certified Trainer. I'm doing a little bit of training for Microsoft 365 and Azure, and also Certified Azure Solution Architect Expert. All right. So with that, let's see how you can unlock new revenue potentials with Azure. So before we do or discuss anything, I wanted to think through this, diagram right now I have here. So this is a diagram or like a infographic that I have actually showed, in our previous session. So we had previous sessions, I think last year, mid of last year, right? So I actually grabbed this, income statement infographic from Microsoft, right? Which is this is Q2 for FY 2023, right? This is last year. And then what I wanted to show you, if you look at Microsoft Azure right here, you can see Intelligent Cloud. So they have about 21.5 billion contribution for the Microsoft business, right? If you look at all the others, right, it is a huge contributor to Microsoft business. So, and if you look at the operating margin, right, you can see they are at operating margin at 41%. So what this infographic tell you, right, there's a enormous opportunity for you to grow in terms of going to cloud. I know some of you might not be selling uh, like solutions for Azure, right? So that's why I want you to think about what is the opportunity that you have. And this is 2023, and I'm gonna fish through Q2 2024. This is Q2 2023, right? And this is Q2 24, right? So that's Microsoft has a different financial year. So if you look at now, right? So this is the latest one, which is been released a couple of weeks ago, and then now you can see the Azure has been increased a lot. You can see it is 24 billion now, right? So previously it is 21.5 billion. That's the revenue. So every month, every single quarter, you will be able to see this is growing up, right? This is not going to stop. So now if you look at the year-on-year growth, so that is about 22% year-on-year growth for Azure only, right? So keep it in your mind, right? So that is a part, of the business that you are going to take out, right? So you can get a little bit of this chunk, and then you can leverage Microsoft Azure and sell Azure with services, right? Then you can actually get a small portion of this, right? So remember, Azure is like a consumption-based business. It is not mostly like Office 365. So it will never stop growing, right? I have customers and partners that I'm working with. They grow every single month, year, because it is exponential. So think about, the hardware growth. Like for an example, if it is a disk drive, and then they start with maybe 500 GB, and then they will actually move it to one terabyte in a couple of months, right? So it actually grows, organically, and then that is where you have the potential to capture some revenue for your MSP business, right? So that's I wanted to show you this income statement for you to think through, right? If you want, you can take a screenshot, right? So that's a pie. Is a part of this pie you can take it out, right, as your own business, right? All right, now talking about uh, cloud, right? We cannot forget about the Bezos law, which is introduced by Jeff Bezos, the Amazon co-founder or the founder, right? So AWS is a separate, cloud provider, but they have started very earlier than Microsoft. So Bezos actually showed this diagram or kind of a concept in a discussion, right? He mentioned that, if you look at over the time, right, the cost of services, right? I mean, IaaS services provided by cloud providers, they are going down, right? You can see the cost of infrastructure as a service, basically cloud services are going down over the time. Now, if you compare to when the AWS started and now, so the cost has gone down even for Azure, right? The cost has gone down drastically. So I started using Microsoft Azure in 2010. So whenever they started first time, right? Whenever they launched first time. So since then, I have seen a tremendous, decrease of margins. I mean, not margins. I mean the cost, right? So with that, what you have to remember, if you are actually, like not providing a service for your customers, and then you are relying on the usage-based billing, you are losing margins because the cost will go down and then the margin will actually go down as well, right? So this is something that you have to think about, right? Even though you sell Azure, right, you need to worry, be very focused on, creating a service-based business around Azure, right? It's not just, the margins that you collect. So if you look at this diagram, the next diagram I'm going to show you, now you can see if you can actually bill your customers a fixed monthly rate, maybe like, some partners are doing like a 3-year, 1-year contracts, right? So you log them into one pricing, which is fixed rate pricing, right? You have the cost as well as you might have some value added services, right? On top of the, Microsoft Azure infrastructure cost. So what will happen over the time, if you look up that, for 3 years, over the time, the cost will go down drastically every single year. And then you can see you are still, making a huge margin, right? Because the cost is going down, but the customer pricing will be fixed, and then the margin will be really high, right? So that's why you have to be very focused on, creating a business out of, like service base for Azure, especially because over the time the cost will go down, right? So if you are relying on only the margins, so what will happen if you look at this diagram? You are not going to get benefits from, just margins, right? It will go down. All right. Now, the question is actually what we can do, right? So probably you don't know what we can do. So I know, don't worry, right? So there are a lot of things that you can do with Microsoft Azure. So I'll give you kind of an idea, what other MSPs, managed service providers are doing that, right? So we have few, right? Before we talk about everything, I want to emphasize this: don't sell Azure, right? So I'm going to reiterate: don't sell Azure. You cannot actually survive by selling Azure. But what we have to do, you have to create a revenue potential or the opportunity by creating another service model on top of Azure, right? Because you can create a lot of services. Azure is like an entire ocean, right? It has a lot of opportunities. You can create anything out of it, right? So whatever you think, you can do it. So if you look at, for example, like everybody knows ChatGPT, right? So OpenAI, they actually run on Azure, right? So that's something that you have to keep it in your mind. You can create your own things and then expand your own potentials. I'm not saying to create a you know like a software service, right, or SaaS service. So as an MSP, you can create other solutions. These are some of the most popular solutions that I have seen during throughout the last couple of years, right? That managed service providers are offering on top of Azure. So if you look at the first one, the very hot topic is remote virtual work solutions, right? So nowadays, remote work is really popular. Azure Virtual Desktop is kind of a really hot topic nowadays because a lot of people work from home and then different locations. And even most of the companies are today outsourcing their work for the other countries, right? For an example, in Australia, you might have companies they are outsourcing for Philippines, right? You have customers they are outsourcing for Philippines. Look at for these opportunities. If they are outsourcing, check how they are actually providing IT services or IT, tools, especially hardware for the end users in those countries. So if you can find a solution for that, that is basically as a virtual desktop, you can create a VD solution, and then it is very cost effective if you have more users. And then end users who are trying to log in, they will use their own machine or maybe BYOD, right? And then they're gonna actually log into corporate environment using AVD. So that is one hot topic nowadays, and then that is something that you can think of it. So we have separate sessions about Azure Virtual Desktop. So probably this year also we're gonna conduct one, right? And then again, if you look at other stuff like hosting applications on Azure virtual machines. So think about you have a customer who is requiring an application, like for an example, the most common one is MyOB, right? Or maybe QuickBooks or Sage, right? All these solutions, you need to host this application on Azure virtual machine, and then end users will access that through a terminal server or maybe a remote desktop server, right? Environment. So you can think of any applications, and then you can install the application on Azure virtual machine, and then let your end users to access them. That is one area. And then migrating existing on-prem workloads to Azure. This is again really a hot topic. So there are a lot of customers, and then what you can do, you can find out customers who are actually going to be end of life for their on-prem workload, right? So if you find out, your customer may have an on-prem environment, they have a lot of server racks, maybe one server, right, that is going to be end of life this year, right? So according to statistics that I have read very recently, about 89 or 87% of hardware devices are going to be end of the life this year, right? So that's something that you can call for, uh, just focus on, right? Because there are a lot of customers using very legacy hardware. You can actually get them onto Azure. This is the correct timing for you to think about it. And again, if you want to provide any solutions such as backup and site recovery, so that is another option that you can think of. So backup, you can actually use something called as Azure Backup, where you can create backup from on-prem to Azure, right? If you have a customer who don't want to go to Microsoft Azure as a cloud solution, right? But they want to just stay inside their on-prem environment, don't need to worry. There are so many other opportunities. You can think of, getting them to a separate site or maybe a backup for their entire environment to a separate site in Azure, right? Because who knows something goes wrong in their on-prem environment, how they are going to keep the business continuity, right? So in order to create like a better business continuity for your customer, you can think of backup and site recovery as another service. All right. So many more customers and partners actually, the favorite one is hosted websites. So there are a lot of, companies who host websites nowadays. I know there are cheaper options available, but somebody wants to host a website or maybe multiple websites, you can think of, hosting it in Azure because you have the leverage to power up, Microsoft Azure environment, and then you can control it by your own self, right? It's just like getting a VPS, right? A virtual private server. So you can get a virtual machine and then host that inside Azure virtual machine, and then the website will up and running. So that's another area, right? So if you move to the other stuff, like you can think of SQL data migration and then hosting, right? As I said earlier, there might be customers who want to move out of on-prem environment because they are end of life coming very soon for their on-prem environment hardware. So you want to move that SQL Server database from on-prem to SQL database in Azure, right? So you can do that migration. So there are pretty nice tools Microsoft has given. So you can use one of these free tools. It's free of charge. You can search for Google, call Azure Data Migration Tool. It's free of charge. You put that, install, and then migrate all the data from on-prem to Azure, right? So pretty simple approach for you to take. And then other than that, so one other popular solution that I have seen throughout the last couple of years that MS is offering is a file server solution. So a lot of customers, they are using like a centralized file server, also known as NAS, right? So what if you can bring that NAS or the centralized file solution, right, the file server, to the cloud? You can do it using Azure Files, right? So Azure Files is a kind of a solution that provides similar capabilities or more than that, right? Which we compare to on-prem file server. So you can attach a disk drive inside everyone's machine, which is running on cloud, right? Instead of running in their own network. So you can create a file server solution using Azure Files. So these are some other opportunities. And other than that, hybrid cloud solutions. So there are many more options available for hybrid cloud solutions. I know a lot of customers are reluctant to use Azure or cloud computing, right, for their workloads because some they don't trust the cloud, right? So, but what you can do, you can partially bring some of the workloads to the cloud, reducing the cost on the on-prem, and keep some of the data in their own environment, and then run applications on hybrid environment. That is possible. You have a lot of options to connect your on-prem environment, your customer's on-prem environment, to Azure data center using direct connections, right? Like a lease line, for an example. So those are available as a software-defined network, which is called as a virtual private network or virtual private network gateway. And then if you want more sophisticated direct line between Microsoft Cloud and then your customers on-prem environment, you can go for something like Azure Express Route, which is direct lease line, right? So that's something that you can, leverage. So you have the ability to create an environment which is running half in the cloud and then half in your Microsoft, the customer's environment, right? So these are some of the solutions that you might think of, right? Selling or maybe bringing to customers in terms of adding values. Just don't sell Azure itself. Just try to create these kind of solutions. So there are a lot of solutions that you can think of. This is a very little. So these are the most popular questions that I get all the time. That's why I have listed them here. So from my experience, these are going to be the easiest and most popular ones for your customers. And you can find an opportunity in between all these opportunities, the solutions that I have mentioned here, right? All right. With that, if you look at how you can reduce the cost and increase margins, so there are a lot of strategies in Microsoft Azure for you to increase your margin by applying some of the strategies, right? So you don't need to share these things with customers, but you can utilize them to reduce your cost and then increase your margins. So if you look at Microsoft Azure, the margins are very low. I think you might get probably up to 10%, I would say, right? Maybe. So talking about taxi, right? So not more than that, you won't be able to get margins, right? So I know it is very low if you don't do like a huge business, right? So how you can reduce their cost, the customer cost, using some of these strategies, and then taking that advantage in order to collect that margin for you. Okay, so these are the strategies. So you can buy reservations or reserved instances for consistent workloads. Let's say that you have a customer. They are going to require virtual machines, and then they are going to be consistent workloads, right? What you can do, you can actually purchase Azure reservations. So Azure reservations are actually available 1 year and 3 year terms. And then you are looking into a period of 1 year or 2 year or 3 year period, right? Sorry, a 1 year and 3 year period. And then the cost is going to lower than what you are paying pay as you go basis, which is very flexible, right? But the cost is going to be 60% or more cheaper than what you are paying. I'll show you that in the Azure pricing calculator later. Then you can get an idea what I'm talking about. So that way you can lock in their workload and environment for 3 years, and then make sure and then ensure that so you are collecting that margin whatever you have, right? And then the next option is taking advantage of the Azure hybrid benefits. So if you look at Azure hybrid benefits, so that's available for customers who already have Microsoft licenses. Let's say that you are moving a customer from cloud on-prem environment to a cloud. So they have their own licenses they might have purchased previously. We can use the same license in Azure. So you don't need to purchase any of the new licenses. You can use the same one instead of purchasing new, right? So which is going to reduce another 20 to 30% from your cloud consumption. And then you can add Azure savings plans for dynamic workloads. So that is another option available. And then you can configure auto scaling. If your customers, environment is little dynamic, you can auto scale up and running, right? If there's a high demand, you can allocate a big machine. If it is low demand, you can downgrade it. So by doing that, you are reducing the cost, right? Because time to time the payment will be different because of the auto scaling. And then really important one is choosing the right Azure compute service. So you have to be really careful, which compute service that you are going to utilize. There are a lot of compute services available, especially Azure Virtual Machines, Azure App Services, and so on and so forth. So you have to rely on the correct Azure compute service. Otherwise, you will actually pay more than what you are actually going to utilize, right? So that's something that you have to keep it in your mind. And then at the end of the day, you have to create budgets and allocate cost to teams projects so we can track it down, right? So easily you can reduce the cost by making sure that there's a budget and allocate the cost in terms of teams and projects. So if it is like a department wise, you can say the customer has IT and HR department, they want to use these projects or maybe these virtual machines, you actually allocate them and create a budget for that, right? So you can track the budget in Azure portal very easily. All right. Now, so this is the comparison how you can save with Azure hybrid benefits together with the reservations, right? So if you look at pay as you go, so you can see this tower is really big, right? And then if you go with reserved instances, just only reserved instances. So compared to pay as you go, reserved instance will save you 72%. So that is maximum that you can go with 3 year instances, right? So what you are going to do, you are going to lock up that machine for 3 years, and then you are not going to change any of these machines, right? It is going to be more static workload, right? So it is easier for you. You can lock up that machine, so you cannot change it time to time, right? Keep it in your mind. But the savings are really big, right? You can see you can actually collect that entire 72% margin if you reserve it, right? So there's a risk as well, right? If your customer wants to, leave, maybe you have to have an agreement for 3 years. So that would be great. But if your customer wants to change the virtual machine, right, maybe their demand is going high, then you don't need to worry, right? So increasing the reserved instance is going to cost you nothing, right? So you will be only just increase that, whatever the machine from one machine to another. So that's going to be another pricing tier, right? But if you are decreasing, right, let's say that, it is customer is saying this too much, you are decreasing, there will be a penalty, right? Remember, if you look up for 3 year or 1 year, in between, if you change, I mean, like decrease or cancel the reservation, there's a penalty that is going to be 12%. on top of what you have, you know, for the 12 months or 3 months, right? So that is not been still applied because Microsoft has not finalized the agreement, right? So still, you have the opportunity to do that in the future. Maybe Microsoft will impose that policy, right? Then you won't be able to go out when you reserve, right? Okay, so that's still not there. So I have some partners who are coming to me and we cancel a lot of reservations sometimes. We upgrade, downgrade, no issues at all, right? All right. Now, if you go to the other one, right, you can see cost savings versus pay as you go for reservations or the reserved instances plus Azure Hybrid benefit. Remember, the Azure Hybrid benefits are created to utilize on-prem, the licenses. So if you already have on-prem licenses, and then what you can do, you can together with reservations for 1 year or 3 years, you can achieve up to 82% cost savings. So remember, this is not only for Azure Hybrid benefits. So I have another solution. We have our Packside platform. If you go and search for Windows licenses, right? Not the perpetual ones or SPLA-like instances. I'm talking about commercial licenses, right? If you search for Windows Server licenses in our platform, you can see there's like a brackets called commercial. So what you can do, instead of paying pay-as-you-go license cost for Microsoft, you can lock up a single, like a license through our Backside platform and apply that. Because we have two options, right? Either you pay, pay-as-you-go licenses, right? Or you go with hybrid options. So when you go with hybrid options, so there is about another 20%, which is going to save you around 100% of the cost savings, right? Which is going to drastically reduce your entire Azure spend. So I know this is probably unbelievable because it's a huge cost savings. So nobody shares these things, right? So these are some of the tricks and tips that I usually do in order to help partners to make a little bit more money, right? So I'll show you in the Azure calculator later how it looks like. Then you will get the proper understanding how exactly we can reduce the cost like that. All right. So before we jump into the Azure calculator, any questions or any doubts that you might have? Anything? You can leverage our chat or the Q&A window, right? So don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have. All right. I hope there's no questions, but feel free to ask any questions in the chat window. All right, so now I'm going to jump into Azure pricing calculator. So here's the link. You can see azure.microsoft.com and then pricing calculator. If you Google search for Azure pricing calculator, you should be able to get the link. And this is where you get started for your first cost estimate, right, for your customer. All right, let's dive into it a little bit. I'm going to go to my web browser. As you can see here, this is the Azure pricing calculator. I will be sharing that in my chat window, so you can also utilize that. So if you go to Azure calculator, there are thousands of services that you can see here. You can see there's a lot of things for compute, networking, storage, web mobile, containers, databases, analytics, AI, machine learning. So there's a tons of Azure services available. So I know it is pretty overwhelming, right? Because there's a lot of services, right? Now, this is how it looks like when you first get started. You have the calculator area, which is right now it's empty, right? And then you have all the products available here. So later we're gonna add all these services and products and see how much it is going to cost, right? All right. Now, if you go to example scenarios, they have given some examples. You can see advanced analytics, CI/CD, enterprise warehouse, Azure machine learning platform, real-time analytics. So there's tons of services available. You can add to estimate for you to get an idea, right? If you click this button, it will create an estimate. You can see this $3,000 a month for this entire solution that you can see here. But it is like a comprehensive solution, right? You might probably have very simple solutions, so you don't need to worry too much. So I'm going to close this one for the moment. So now, if you look at a lot of services are there, how you can figure out which service is for you, right? So there is a nice website I will share you as a periodic table. Okay, so there's this website I'm gonna share with you called as a periodic table. So as you can see, this is called as periodic table. You can see all the services. You can see general networking compute web. Let's say if you want to go for compute web, then you can see there's tons of compute and web services available, right? Okay, now let's say that you are going to talk about virtual machines. You have you can see virtual machines windows. You click that, then what you can see information related to the virtual machine, and even you can deploy that using a template right here. So Microsoft has these options like Terraform, Bicep, and ARM templates that you can utilize in order to get it running, right? So basically, you can get an idea about what is a virtual machine and then what are them, etc. Right? I'm going to share this link with you guys as well, so you can leverage that for you to find the correct solution. And then another link before we get into the Azure calculator. Let me share that. Finding correct Azure compute solution. There's a flow diagram. Okay, let me go to this one. So this is called as choose an Azure compute service. As you can see, there's a flow diagram that you can utilize in order to select which service that you are going to use, right? I'm going to share this one as well. Take a look at that. This is also really important when you are deciding which one you are going to use for your applications, for your custom applications, right? All right. Now, let's get into our calculator. So let's assume that you are going to run a small application like MyOB, right? And then the application will run on Azure. And then your end users who wants to access that application through a virtual private network, VPN gateway, every single day, right? And then assume that this particular customer is only require this machine for the business hours. So after business hours, you might be able to shut it down because they are located in one location in Australia, let's say for an example, right? And then they need around 500 gigabytes of disk drive for the machine for you to save the data, right? So for this particular scenario, you will first of all need a virtual machine to host that particular MyOB application. I'm going to add that to my calculator. Very quickly, let me add that to my calculator. So let's say that simple application. This is the calculator, calculation name for application MyOB uh, solution, right? And this is the virtual machine application virtual machine. And then you can change the currency, right? So if you want in USD, Australian dollars, or whatever it is, you can change the currency. And then because, as I said, this is a customer in Australia, I'm going to select the nearest data center. Yes, you can see the regions are there. So remember, from data center to data center is going to be different, right? The cost will be cheaper in some places, or it is really expensive in some places, right? So the only matter is here is the latency. So if you need a good connection, definitely select the one nearest to you. Okay, it is Australia Southeast, and we need a Windows machine, and then OS is just enough, and a standard machine, right? So let's say that for MyOB you need at least 4 cores. So I'm gonna search for a machine which is 4 cores. For that, I'm gonna use another third-party, another third-party application called AzurePrice.net. That's it. Okay, so there's a third-party tool that I usually use. What happened to that? I think they may have changed. Yeah, that's one. They have changed the URL. So here you can do a VM comparison. You can add your, currency and then the location. Let's add for this one Australia Southeast, and then I'm going to check per hour or per month, right? You have the option to use per hour. That is the lowest because Microsoft is billing you per hourly basis. So let's say that per month I'm going to go and select and need a 4 vCPU machine. So here you have to add 4 and 4, and I need just only 8 GB RAM for the machine. You go there and check, there's tons of machines available. So remember, these A machines and B machines are not suitable for production workloads, right? So if you look at, you can see standard, you can see entry level VMs. You can get an idea about, what it is by hovering over here. Entry level VMs for dev and test, and economical burstable, right? So you can see what it actually stands for. Now, because I need like a standard workload, which is 4 CPUs and 8 GB, and then it is going to be a production one, probably I will go with some of these machines that are in D series because it is general purpose computing, right? So I'm going to go with the LSV5 in this example. I'm going to go here and then search for the LSV5. So you can see it's right here. I'll share this link with you. Let me put that into the chat as well. This is a good way for you to get an idea which machine that you are going to use, right? All right, now, so that's already added. So I have 4-core machine, and then as mentioned earlier, so for this particular customer, you don't need to run that workload for 24 hours. So let's assume that per day they are going to access the machine for 10 hours, and then you are going to multiply that by 31 days, which is going to be 310 days. I mean 310 hours that particular customer is going to use this machine. So during the off peak or off time, you can shut it down. You have that option, right? Remember, you don't necessarily need to do that, but there's automatic shutdown and automatic turn on rules that you can create. When you do that, you can save a lot, right? So let's say that you are doing that, and then we're gonna actually only run for 310 hours compared to 744 hours, which is a standard amount, right? You can see if you run it for 24 by 7, you're gonna pay $320, right? But if you run it for 310 hours, which is 134. So that is how you can gauge, how much it is going to cost for running that for business hours only, and shutting down the machine at the night time, right? So you have the option, but sometimes you cannot do that because sometimes the machine will be accessed by other regions because they are 24 by 7 available. You need to keep it available. You will have no choice. You have to go with 744 hours. But right, if it is 24 by 7, I would rather go with reservation because it is going to give you more discounts, right? I'm going to show you now. So if you, let's say that, it's going to run for 24 hours a day, which is going to be 744 hours a month. The cost is $322. But if I go with 1 year reservation, you can see it's gone to 241. If you go with 3 year reservation, it's gone to $199, right? So assumption is if you are going with reservations, remember that you can go only maximum up to $199 because you are expecting that machine to run 24 by 7, right? But if you look at it, it is 200, almost $200. But if you look at back again, if I go back here, pay as you go, and put 310 hours, you can see this one is 134, right? Because we are only running for 310 hours. Oh, that's the difference between reservations. In reservation, we assume that 24 by 7 machine workload, and then we are reserving it for 1 year. Okay. Now here, because we are going with 310, it's pretty cheaper because we are going to shut down the machine during some time, right? All right, now let's go and add the other components. So this is the machine. And as I said earlier, you have the ability to bring your own licenses. You can purchase them separately, which is very cheaper. You can lock up a license for the entire year. So you have this OS option, Azure Hybrid Benefit. If you look at for Azure Hybrid Benefit, it costs you around $57 per month. So whereas if you purchase that same from our platform, it is going to be cheaper because you can apply the same license. If you don't have licenses, if you already have license, you can, you don't need to worry about purchasing it. Okay, let's say that you are going with Azure Hybrid Benefit. You can see now it is $77. It's very cheaper than, previous pricing. All right, now let's keep it as it is, license included, and then we're going to run 310 hours. I'm going to add a manage this for the operating system. This is for the OS. I'm going to add a premium SSD with 128 because for Windows 11 or up, right, we need to have at least 128 GB capacity. Now, this is for the machine, and I'm going to add a data drive. So I'm going to add a storage account for the data drive. Let's say this is for data disk. The previous one was for the operating system. Now I'm going to select Australia Southeast East, right? And then for the type, I'm going to use manage this premium SSD. I want 500 gigabytes. Now you can see, which cost me around $73 per month, right? So remember that you don't necessarily need to preserve 500 gigabytes if you don't use it. Let's say at the beginning you are going to go with 32 gigabytes. That's fine, right? So after a month, if it is not possible to maintain, if you need more, you go and add another one, 64, right? If it is not possible to maintain that 64 and it is exceeding, you can go and add another one. So these are the options that you have for disk drives, right? So basically, disk drives are very exponential in growth because data is going to fill up every single month, right? And then most of the time you will see an exponential growth for data risks, right? If it is like heavily data dependent for the application. All right, now that's all done. We need a VPN connection because we want to ask users to connect securely. You can add a VPN gateway. I'm going to add a VPN gateway, Southeast Asia, Australia Southeast, VPN gateway. And I'm going to go with VPN gateway 1 AC. There's the options, right? Every option has a different, SKUs. I mean, different, stuff. I mean, the features. For the gateway hours, I'm going to use the same hours, 310 hours, and we will be using this one. And type, you can see there's another option called express route, which is a lease line, right? So we are not going to use that. This is expensive a little bit, right? But we can go with VPN gateway, just do side-to-side tunnel, right? So you will get for this month, right, paying $111. You will get about 10 side-to-side tunnels and then about 128 point-to-side tunnels, right? All right, that's for the VPN gateway. And then we have to care about, the outgoing bandwidth. So remember that outgoing bandwidth is not free of charge out of the data center, right? So coming in is actually free, right? You can, your data that's going inside is free, but going out is not going to be free. So I'm going to add internet egress. It's called outside, right? And then the location, and then routed via public network or Microsoft Global Network. Because we are using VPN gateway, we're going to use Microsoft Global Network. And then outbound data up to 150 GB is free. After that, every 1 GB, right, is going to be charged. Sorry, I think 100 GB is free. Every 1 GB is going to cost you 12 cents, right? After that, up to 100 GB is free of charge. Okay, now we have everything for this particular setup. So this one entirely going to cost you around $285 per month, right? And then compare this one with your current environment. Maybe you are running on-prem, so that's going to be very expensive. All right, so after you create the estimate, what you can do, remember one thing that before we do anything, so this is the end customer pricing, mostly the list price. On top of that, you will get your margins from Paxfeed, right? So you can talk to your channel account manager and check, how much you are getting in terms of the margin. All right, so what we can do once you create that, you can actually save this one for future use. Let me show it how it looks like. When you save it, you can use it again in the future. Right. Now, so first of all, you have log in, right? Remember, I logged in. When you logged in, you have to click save here and then save it. And then you can use that in the future. All right. Now, if you go to saved estimates right here, you can see the one that I just saved is there. You can open it anytime. Okay. Now, if you want to download these in a Excel format, you can click that spreadsheet. It will download you the spreadsheet. So pretty nice, presentation. This is how it looks like. As you can see, all the information given. You can, play around here a little bit and add your whatever things that you want to do and send it back to the customer, right? You can copy and paste and put that into your own custom, quotation and send it. All right. Other than that, you can even share the link directly. So you can copy that. I'm going to paste it in the chat. You can even look into my calculation and then you can plug it, as you want and play around a little bit. All right, so that's about for the Azure calculator. Please let me know if there's any questions. So because we have a limited time, I'm gonna quickly go to the next part. So the next one is getting the backseat, leveraging the backseat professional services. I know at the beginning it is kind of hard for you to get started with Azure services. So, but if you have any services that you don't understand how to do, especially like migrations or maybe implementing a virtual machine, the first one, just come to us. We'll help you. So basically, the professional services team is kind of a white label professional services team. What you can do, you can get our pricing and then bring your own margin to that and send it to your customer, right? We are not going to directly engage with customer. It's just a engagement between you and us, right? And then implementation, we'll do that for them. But it's for you to decide, how much you are going to charge for the customer, right? So once we give you the cost of, doing the work. All right. So what we can do a lot of things in terms of Azure. So we can do lift and shift migrations. If you have Azure Virtual Desktop Environment deployment, we can do that. Physical server to cloud, VMware to cloud, Hyper-V to cloud, AWS, GCP to cloud. We can do migrations for you. So you just need to let us know, right? Then we can discuss then how we can do it. And then we have the option to get the modernizations, right? If you want to do database server migration, like, managed DBs, if you want to do modernization, web servers to web services modernization, Active Directory to Entra ID migrations, right? So these things we do in-house. So then you can actually leverage our professional services and bring that to your customer, right? So if you don't know how to do things in Azure, first one, you can actually do it with us, and then maybe you can learn it from that and then do the next one by yourself, right? So we have partners who do that. So usually they start with the first one, and then the next solution, they are going to do it for the next customer by themselves because they are learning on the way, right? All right. So other than that, we have a lot of Azure programs. So one of the popular Azure program is Azure Solution Assessment, right? So I'll share a link in the chat window later. So there's a program called Azure Solution Assessment. You can assess, your customer environment, especially for the migration readiness, right? If it is like on-prem environment, you can do on-prem to Azure migration assessment. It's free of charge. And then rapid security migration assessment or the security assessment, you can see how secure the current environment is in terms of security. And then we have Azure funding programs such as Azure credit offers, right? If you have a huge opportunity that is going to generate, more revenue, right? Like more than $1,000, you can let us know. So we have funding programs available with Microsoft, right? We can get credit for you for a couple of months, maybe for the production environment or maybe even for the POCs, right? If you want to do a POC, we can, discuss about that. All right, so first, Azure subscription is going to be the hardest one, right? But it is not that hard because platform has done it easier for you. You can create your first Azure subscription going into our platform. I'll share this link with you, right? So if you go to this link that I'm sharing, so you should be able to access that. Let me share it in the chat. This document outlines entire procedure, how to get started with your first Azure subscription. go to that PDF document that I shared in the chat. So it's pretty simple. You can go to our catalog and then search for Azure plan, and then just check out, just like other subscriptions that you are purchasing from us, and select the customer at the end, and then the billing will be determined by usage. There won't be any direct numbers, right? So as I earlier mentioned, it's basically based on the usage, right? Okay. Now this is pretty simple. Go to that document and then try to utilize that to get your first Azure subscription up and running for your customer. All right. How to get started with, first of all, the quick wins, like low hanging fruits using Azure change of channel. So probably you might find customers who are directly purchasing Azure from another partner, or maybe a distributor, or maybe a different partner, right? So talk to them and see, if we can bring them up to Paxit channel, right? So there are three options who currently build, using different channels. So these are the three options that different customers use. They may be with another distributor. They may be with a direct bill using credit card subscriptions, or maybe they are actually under Microsoft Direct CSP Tier 1, right? So any of these three options, the first one is the easiest, and then the second one is the hardest. Third one is not that hard, right? To bring it over to Paxate channel, right? Under you guys, under our partner, right? Under Paxate channel. So bringing them to Paxate channel will help you to reduce the cost risk and increase your margins, right? So that's the benefit we are bringing to you. So we'll be able to help you with cost optimization, right? The ones that I mentioned, and then even to reduce the risk and even increase your margins a little bit, more than what you are getting. So these are the quick wins that you can look at in the market, right? So if there are customers who are directly working with another distributor, let us know. We can do the change of channel, also known as COCP, under Azure subscription running on Paxate, right? So that is a pretty simple task. But if they are directly a little bit harder, we have to do a little bit of migration work. But still, that is not bad, because if they pay, the customer is paying using a credit card, definitely they are paying more for Microsoft, right? Because it is 10% higher, like around 10 to 20% higher than whatever you are getting from Paxate. Okay. All right. Now, talking about what you have to learn and where you can learn about all those Microsoft Azure stuff. So you don't need to go and do a lot of stuff everywhere. You just need to focus on two places. So that is definitely Microsoft Learn. So Microsoft Learn has a lot of training content for Microsoft Azure. So you can get started with Microsoft Azure fundamentals, and then you can move ahead with other certifications, right? There are certifications available, and then you can learn about Azure from there. So other than that, you can leverage our Paxate Academy. So we have free content available for Azure and then some Microsoft 365 stuff in our learning on demand portal, right? You can go to our academy and then academy.paxate.com, I think, right? So you can log in with your own Paxate platform credentials. You can see tons of service, the courses available in there for you to learn about Azure. So other than that, usually I conduct every month like a couple of sessions, like instructor-led training sessions. So you can get in touch with our academy, right? If you have an academy subscription, you should be able to get an idea what we are doing. So in the coming months, we'll be doing like a hands-on labs, and then like Azure 101, 102, and 103 sessions. So for you to get started with Azure, it's going to be comprehensive 4 to 5 hours every day, like 2 to 3 hours every day, which is going to be 24 hours worth of training containing hands-on labs, right? So that is coming on the way. Just keep an eye on it. So if you never if you never get the information, right, just let us know. We'll actually help you to get registered. So let academy people know, right? Just message academy that you want to enroll and learn more about how to start, Azure fundamentals, right? All right. Now, before we jump out for the questions, you can ask any questions that you have. I'm going to share the locations where you can start the assessment. So assessment. All right. Now, if I go to this site, um, so if you want to do the assessments, right, the free assessment conducted by Microsoft, you can go to this website, and they have multiple assessments. You can see Azure Expert Assessment is the one that I'm talking about. If you go for request assessment, right, request a free assessment, you have to fill in all the information about your customer, right? You can see what topics you want to assess. Is that you want to migrate from cloud on-prem to cloud? You can put this ticks and then put your company information, the partner information, and then obtain a voucher, right? You will get a voucher, right? So keep it in your mind. This is a very simple way to get started if you want to migrate an user, right? So these migration assessments are free of charge. You can utilize these assessments to show for your customer this is how much it is going to cost, how much it is going to save if you move to the cloud, right? All right, now talking about the Microsoft Learn, right? If you go to Microsoft Learn website, so you can go here and then browse all paths. So select Azure for beginners. You can select the level here, and then I'm going to select only Azure. And you can see there are tons of different modules available, and even learning paths, right? If you go here and click learning path, to show you the learning path, right? Describe Azure fundamental concepts and describe cloud concepts. You can go here and then learn about it, right? You can see there are modules that you can learn, right? And then yeah, just most of them are like reading materials. So basically, you can go and look into it. All right, I'll share this link with you in the chat again, right? So this is where you can learn about Microsoft Azure. And then I will highly recommend if you are getting started with Azure, taking the exam AZ900, which is Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. It's going to cost you around a couple of bucks, right? And then for the preparation, you can actually go and learn here. You can see under this website here, you can see self-paced learning. They have 3 modules you have to focus on. And then if you do all these 3 modules, you'll be able to get an idea, proper idea about Microsoft Azure, right? All right, now I'm going to share that as well. So in our future sessions, right, we'll be discussing all those stuff, but keep it in your mind. It's going to happen in next couple of months, like I think in around April. So you should get an email, or maybe if you're not earlier in this like March, right? So make sure to reach out to Academy for you to enroll for that training. So because academic training is limited, because we are providing Azure hands-on labs in that training. The hands-on labs will give you kind of a hands-on experience for you to try it out, right? All right, so that's probably what I have to share. I think, yeah, let me check if there's any questions. No questions. All right, check Q&A. No. Perfect. So yeah, I think that's about it for the day, right? If you have any questions, you can ask last day questions. Yeah. So let's see. This Tony is typing. Let's see. Mm-mm. Oh, okay. Understand, Tony. So probably I don't know why cloudprice.net. Yeah. Thank you for the info. Usually we use that for to get the pricing. Probably it has some malware. I don't know. All right. So I think yeah, that's for the day. So we'll send you all the recordings and then other materials, the documents and all. So if you have any questions or any doubts, please feel free to reach out to me, right? Or maybe academic team. So with that, we're gonna wrap up for the day. So let us know if you have any questions. Let your channel account manager know, and we can get on a call and discuss about anything related to Azure. All right. Thank you for joining the session, and hope it was a great session for you to understand Azure. So let us know how we can help in the future. Thank you and have a great day. Take care.